Hi guys, and welcome to today's session. So this is going to be the first in a new series, looking at acrylic painting in, or landscape painting in acrylics, using kind of pretty bright colours. So often I have a tendency to do quite muted things, and I wanted to just do some quite bright stuff with you guys, and acrylic's a good medium for that. So I'm working really quickly today. We're going into colours in the next session, but to start with, I'm going to just be working with pencil on some acrylic paper. So this is like an little acrylic paper block that I've got on my easel, and just working in pencil. I'm going to be doing a kind of moderately detailed pencil sketch, starting to develop a bit of form, and then doing a coat of acrylic, sorry, not acrylic, but pencil fixative, so like dry media fixative over the top. So we're going to get started straight away, and as always, I'm going to pick a sort of like anchor point that we can start to kind of work from. So in the center of the page, I'm going to pop in where we've got that kind of peak, that little mountain peak. That first one. It's a nice dramatic subject, this one. And the reference link, if you need it, is in the description. Same reference that I've got up on the screen that I'm using, and it's just from Unsplash, which I use a lot for various types of references. So I'm just kind of shaping out these rock forms to begin with. We've got the clouds that are sort of sitting over all of these rock shapes, and which we'll be putting in next. So the rocks are the most illuminated part of the picture, and then the clouds as well. Or mountainscape really, rather than rocks is probably downplaying a little. There's another cloud that kind of hovers over here. Some really nice kind of dramatic low-lying clouds we've got in this piece. So we've got that cloud, we've got a few more clouds kind of emerging up raggedly. Joining the main mass of them. Which sit up here. Maybe drop the bottom of that cloud even further down. So you can see I'm being pretty scratchy, nothing too sort of slaved over in terms of shapes. I'll lift them up slightly, those shapes. This is basically a little bit of sky peeking through. So that's our cloud shape up top, and can start to kind of suggest a little bit of shading for the deeper, kind of darker parts of the clouds. Sort of slightly multi-layered. The cloud is definitely a lot darker and the sky behind it. But then it also gets lighter. Also gets lighter higher up. So that's our sort of cloud shapes roughed in. We've got the kind of top of the mountain ridge. The next thing we're going to do is just find the sort of darker hillside which runs in front of the mountains, keeping these shapes pretty simple. So there's a few different layers of hillsides that actually get sort of darker as they come towards us. It's a bit more kind of dramatic and contrasty that way, which is quite nice. So we've got this one, and then we've got a line of trees. This line of trees and shrubs is probably one of the darkest points in the piece. So I'm going pretty dark with those. There's a little bit of a gap and then a few more trees. So we've also got this other kind of little mountainside behind that we sketched in initially. Then we've got this sweeping road which kind of curves down at the bottom of the composition. A lot of little shrubs. So we have quite a few layers of these shrubs kind of going back into the distance. Which we don't have to detail completely because we're going to be painting over the top of this anyway. But it's not a bad idea to get a reasonable kind of number of them laid out. And certainly the sense of their shape kind of going back into the distance is quite good as well. And then all of this stuff can have a bit of a shaded pass to distinguish it from the stuff going on up in the mountain. So even the road, which is kind of light relatively relative to the other stuff in the foreground, is certainly darker. And these hillsides as well, we can darken off a little bit. Certainly particularly the top of them, sort of that drops down into a bit of a gradient. And then certainly the top of these. This little hillside. And then even darker with the trees that are relatively much closer to us. So you can see we're starting to kind of build up a staggered sort of lighting structure to the piece, which will guide us as once we start painting, because we're gonna fix this so we can work directly over it and then do sort of washes to start building stuff up. So a lot of the mountainside is in shadow, and what I want to do now is just find where it's in light. And sort of separate that out. That was not quite right. So this is in shadow, this is shadow. I got a little bit of light there. It's easy to get lost in the, the mountain top, so take your time. I got a little bit confused there myself. So you're kind of mapping out the shadows, and then you're trying to sort of figure out what's light, what's dark, which can be a bit tricky, but it's easier in pencil than it will be when we move into paint. So good to kind of tackle it at this point, I think. And if your shadows aren't kind of completely accurate, or your shapes aren't completely accurate, that's totally fine. So we've got a nice sort of strong light that comes across and hits this mountainside. And so, yeah, that's starting to look pretty good. So I can see I've got most of my major shapes in place now. So I'm just going to do the second set of clouds, which kind of sits behind the mountainsides and the first set of clouds. They're kind of a bit fuzzier looking. And so, you know, in here is going to be blue. And we've got some blue kind of showing up there as well. So I might just, as a final thing for this session, before we put the spray on, is just go a little bit more definite with the darker clouds, kind of where they are in the picture. So we've got some guidance when we start to wash colors over. Not so happy with this shape. Looks like a little hand reaching down, so I'm just gonna change that a little bit. That's better. Yeah, so that's looking pretty good for a starting point. I'll just define this road a little bit more. But yeah, as a piece to wash over, this is really good. I'm just going to grab my Fixative. We'll show you how to spray it and how you leave it to dry. So to fix it, we just got a little can of Winsor Newton Fixative. And we're just going to give it a fairly heavy spray. It's fairly thick paper. Even to the point where it bleeds, the graphite a little bit is good. But a good kind of decent spray, just so when we start to wash over, it doesn't pick up any of or as little graphite as possible as we wash. So yeah, that's it for this session. As always, you can subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all the videos that I post, and you can also click the link through to our school to see the sorts of paid qualifications that we offer as well. So yeah, that's it, and I'll see you guys next week.